Worst boss ever. Now, we talked a little bit about this, and you made me upset because I thought you'd have a good story, and you're like, I've never had a boss I didn't like. And that's because you're so likable. I think almost every boss I've had I've not liked, and that's because we literally come across the people the exact opposite, which I think is when they see us together, they're like, wait a minute, what? But anyway, so worst boss ever. Who's your worst boss? You can say me. We talked about it. You can say me. I gave you time you can throw me under the bus.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a little bit, and it's a great topic. And for me, just like you shared it, it's something in my life that I generally like everyone. And it takes a great deal of life happenings for me to not like someone.
The sun is so warm. I love the grass and the flowers.
And typically, because of that, most of my bosses typically like me. I'm definitely glass half full.
You are like a real life Olaf. You are a real life Olaf. That's you. Even when it's like you're singing about the sunshine, you're going to melt and die. You're like, it's great. I love it. I love summer. Let's bring it on. You're like, Josh, that's probably bad for you. Like, no, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, but, I've had a lot of bosses that I didn't really see eye to eye with, but, being my personality, I've kind of gone along with it, and I've kind of tried to serve their vision and did what they wanted me to do. But out of sheer fun and a little bit of spite, I'll say my worst boss was probably you.
Out of spite. That's what makes our relationship great. Okay.
Yeah. So, you're a great guy. I love you to death, obviously, but you can be super demanding. You are very structured and organized, which I know we talked about before, which I'm not. But also that's why it makes it work as well. Because you are structured and organized, you can help me be that way. And, you are very analytical driven. I'm very people driven. So it's a very yin and yang type relationship that we have as well. But, that's the worst I got.
Yeah. For me, I'm constantly in a state of personal evolution to understand. And I had to learn this the hard way in just a lot of ways. And I'm still learning it. But you have to be an effective leader, or to be somebody that can cause change in almost any environment and just have that knack or that skill set. You have to learn how to execute the task, not the person. And
Did you read that in Good to Great?
What?
Did you read that in Good to Great?
No, that's not in there.
Oh.
That's not in there. No, that's mine. That's Jeremy Dunn's.
Okay. Good to know.
But for me, I was so goal-driven and I was so aggressive about it, I didn't understand what everybody else's problem was. It was because I was an a-hole.
Yeah.
Right? I had to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to work through that. I think maybe it's just the competitive side of me or whatever, but I was like, we're all in the game together. Why does this bother you?
So would you say that's a common misconception?
Of me?
Of you, that you are an a-hole? Or is it accurate?
I don't think it's a misconception. I mean, I don't. I think I have to be very honest with myself and just realizing there's parts of my personality I can curb. There's parts of my personality I can finesse, but I can't change some of those ingrained realities. I can work around them. I can work with them. I can be more understanding and adjust them. But to think I'm going to completely, change every aspect of who I am, I don't think that's reasonable. And I think that's also where people get in trouble, because one thing that nobody can say is that I'm not authentic and that I'm not going to sit down with somebody and try to understand what's going on. Now, the way I deliver that initially may be not that much fun for somebody to hear, but it sure does make for some good stories later on. We have plenty of good stories to share, but none of it is the desire to be at the expense of the person.
Yeah.
It's too often getting the goal in front of the people, which is a mistake that I've made, which is something I'm constantly trying to learn from. I'm constantly trying to understand how I'm communicating or what, because really at the end of the day, we've both learned this. I'd rather have great people and a crappy plan than a great plan and crappy people. Mm-hmm. You surround me with great people, you just throw anything together and something positive is going to happen.
Yeah.
Great people produce great results and they do it no matter what. Mm-hmm. Crappy people produce crappy results and they do it no matter what. So my worst boss, we'll keep his full name private, but this goes way back to the JP Morgan days. He was, we called him the Baz. He was the Baz, and he talked like this. And everything you get from this voice and somebody nicknamed the Baz, that's exactly the way he acted. And this guy was a real life cartoon character, like real life. He was overly fake tanned. He had the slick back hair. He kind of worked out, but he was kind of out of shape, but he never lifted legs. So like his lats and his chest were really big, but that was it. So he looked like almost like an older, tanner version of Johnny Bravo in a way. And so this is back in the heyday of, when bank lending was just going crazy and there was all sorts of money to be made and everything was big and hyped up. And he was my boss's boss. So he was up there. And we had this conference, just to give you an idea of who he was, because he was making so much money and because he was living in a universe that wasn't even normal for successful people at that time, he was insanely disconnected. Like Tom Cruise jump on the couch, disconnected with reality. But in his mind, he wasn't. So I think it's one of the other commonalities with like worst boss is they're disconnected, right? They get to a certain point and they think the way they did it, 20 years ago is the best way ever to do it. And so they assume they're smarter than everybody, even though typically in our experience, when the boss gets involved in the process and they're not asking questions, they typically screw it up. Instead of seeking to understand and kind of stepping back and learning from the people they're trusting to execute that process, let me show you how it's done or whatever. And we've seen those experiences and we're sitting there just like our skin's crawling like, please get out of the way.
Yeah.
Because we can do this better than you can do it. Now you're the leader, you're the boss, but you're trusting me to execute this task and to lead this group.
Yeah.
Let me do it. And you lead me from that perspective, not try to jump in and show me how great you are.
So micromanagement.
Yeah, micromanagement for sure. So the Baz, we had a big conference in Orlando, Florida, and JP Morgan had rented out this huge space in the middle of the conference area, and the whole conversation, the whole selling point was lock it in, right? So lock in your interest rate for all these big commercial customers we have and the cash flow loans that we would do or the building loans that we would do or whatever. And so it was about locking in your interest rate, and we were the most aggressive about extending that lock-in period for whatever that time is. And so we had this very just normal business booth. We were passing out locks to people. These that actually, which is cool, were made here in Marion, Ohio by Wilson and Bohanna. So I flipped over the lock and I said, cool. Oh, that's sweet. So I was like, okay, they ordered that. That's kind of cool. So I'm sitting there in Orlando, Florida, and everybody that was a part of any local office within, a 2-hour drive had to be here and like work shifts at the booth. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to talk to people, I'm trying to engage people in conversation, and all of a sudden the Baz shows up, and he had that energy, he had that aura or whatever, and he walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I don't think he ever knew my name. Like, "Hey, how you doing, bud?" Like never knew my name, which is also a terrible leadership trait. He goes, "Hey, how you doing, bud? What's going on? Tell me what's happening. What do you do today?" Like always hiding, like, "Did you just snort crack? Like, calm down. Give me a second to understand what you're saying and breathe." And so I'm like, well, I'm at this booth. I'm trying to talk to, potential clients. I'm, passing out the locks like I was instructed to do. He goes, "Listen here, buddy. I don't want to see you passing out locks. I want to see you passing out talks." "Huh?" "I want to see you taking loan applications on the back of business cards, talking to people." "Oh, talk, not T-O-C-K. You meant to say talk, T-A-L-K. "Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You need to get out here and do this, buddy. You can do it. Come on." And then he'd leave with a high five. I don't know if you've seen the movie Heavyweights or Dodgeball, but Ben Stiller's character is the same character from both movies.
Yeah.
That was this guy.
All right.
So this other meeting we had, again, the disconnect was unbelievable. A lot of the big dogs flew in on the corporate jet to come into our area and our region to fire us up about all these changes and stuff.
When you were still in Florida?
When I was still in Florida. And so the meeting starts, and it starts with like the Chicago Bulls theme music from back in like the 90s. The lights start going or whatever. And first of all, he was a bigger guy, number one. So he comes running in a muscle suit. So fake muscles or whatever. And he's going on and on about, we're going to be stronger and tougher and better than anybody's ever seen us be. And it's all this unapplicable information, like hype stuff for nothing that helps you with your job. Like not one, and he's doing it in front of his bosses. So it's one of those scenarios like, it'd be like a drunk uncle at a family function that you brought a friend to. You just put your head down. You're like, please please, just stop. Just sit down. Let somebody else talk, please. But he was probably the worst boss that I had ever had. And so there's like, you can make a character of it. You can make jokes about it. But I also think there's a lot of value to learn. So in those situations that I was working under my worst boss or some of those scenarios, I challenged myself to learn how to deal with it. I challenged myself to learn how to work with it. And I was having a super just frustrating time in one scenario, and I was talking to a friend about it. And he said something that stuck with me. He just said, you still have to serve him with everything you got, and you can't let him affect your performance. And that changed my life because I hit a switch that day where I was like, okay, my performance is on me. No matter who my boss is, no matter what they're doing, no matter how great they are, how inept they are, no matter what, I have to be so successful, so driven, so hard on myself in a sense, critical of myself in a sense, that no matter what they do, they don't impact my performance. In a lot of cases, that's really hard to do, but you can step back and remove that frustration and remove some of that angst and just say, okay, what does it look like for me to be successful in this environment, with or without them? Not to say you ignore them or you start, going against what they're saying. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you look at what your responsibilities are and you say, I'm going to crush it. So that way, no matter what their opinion is of me or anything, I can demonstrate this performance. I can put this in their lap and say, you show me how I'm not crushing it.
But what if you know you're right and they're wrong?
That has also got me in trouble a lot. Because if I have the proof or the evidence, I'm not afraid to say what I think. And at times that has helped me, but at times it's hurt me. So if you're in a highly tense kind of political environment or just an unhealthy work environment, saying the truth is going to get you in a lot of trouble. If you're in a healthy working environment, saying the truth is going to get you a lot of attention in a positive way. So if you're working through like a corporate setting or whatever, you kind of have to gauge that and feel that. But then you also have to understand how to communicate it.
Yeah.
So for you, since I was your worst boss, how did you navigate that? Or what are some of the things you learned? Or was the experience just, well, this is just kind of a negative experience and I'll chalk it up as a loss?
No, it definitely wasn't a negative experience because you can, one of my lifelong goals, and it's a goal every single day from any experience that I have, I can grow from it and I can learn from it, regardless of what it is, good, bad, indifferent. I need to grow. That's on me. That's not on you. That's not on one of my bosses. Going through that process of navigating and finding, you finding the gold in different situations isn't always easy, but I've found it makes my life so much better to focus on that positive stuff and the things I can control and how I handle it. So if you're being an a-hole to me,
which I have,
you have been.
Not because I don't love you, but it's just what happens.
Not in a malicious way. I take that of, okay, self-reflecting time. Is it warranted? How can I improve? All right, let's go after it. So using those opportunities for me personally just to grow and go after it. And that's honestly, that's how I've seen success in our relationships, in work relationships, all these different relationships that we have, for me, kind of finding the gold in all those situations, because not everything, I might be, all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns majority of the time. But, there are definitely times during me standing on the rainbow that, somebody drops a turd in my lap. So,
yeah, man, the turd in the lap,
the turd in the lap. But sometimes that, you can turn that turd into fertilizer, right?
Whatever analogy you're going for.
I'm not a farmer, but I'm just assuming.
This is so spot on.
But anyway, no.
But it's true. You're right.
It is true.
Yeah.
It is true. And, so that's something that I've dedicated my life to make sure that is a point of what I go after, because to me, I don't watch the news. And I stopped watching the news. It was a conscious effort years ago because I don't have time to deal with that negativity in my life. Because if I'm focusing on the problem, I can't focus on the solution. And so like I'll kind of joke around with my wife and my in-laws. They love watching the news, and they try to talk to me about the news. And I don't mean to be mean about it, Like, I don't care. Like, I legitimately don't care. I know it's important to be aware of what's going on in my surroundings and all the things that are going on in life. That is important, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But me focusing on the issues and the past, I can't focus on the future and how to progress and how to get better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I've seen you do that.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen you even personally in almost anything that you've been a part of where you outgrow your environment. And when you outgrow your environment, the next step in success gets a lot easier. It's a huge mistake. And this happens a lot for younger people or younger career people. It's a huge mistake to assume other people are responsible for your success.
Yeah.
Whether they're your direct boss or not, you have to find a way to outgrow your environment. And you should always be doing that. You should always be trying that. And sometimes you're going to feel like you're getting kicked in the head for it. Or sometimes people are going to misunderstand it or feel like you're trying to buck the culture or whatever. But at the end of the day, your personal growth has to be worth it. And at the end of the day, if the company needs to fire you, they're going to fire you. Your accountability for your life pursuit really is squarely on you and your family.
For sure.
And that's it. So if you've had a bad boss, maybe comment, maybe share a story. We'd love to maybe read them. That would be fun. But, that's a personal challenge for us, a personal challenge for you, no matter what the scenario is. Find a way to outgrow your environment.
This is how stupid people succeed. I'm Josh, stupid. Jeremy, sometimes stupid. And this is how we succeed in various areas of life.